right. Injuries are the same three that I mentioned yesterday. Brandon Albert is still working on getting back from a hyperextended knee. Anthony Fasano, the concussion, and then Justin Houston with the elbow. Day to day on all of them. We'll just see how it goes. Really nothing to mention from this last game as far as the injuries go. I thought it was a good win. Every win that you can get in the National Football League is a good win. This one, I thought all three phases functioned well, and it's probably the first time this year that that's really taken place to that extreme, and that's a good thing. I would like to give just a mention. Alan Wright, our equipment guy, ended up changing the studs on all the cleats before the game, which it looked like an assembly line in there, just taking the shorter studs out and put the longer ones in. I think that was a factor. We were able to function at a high level in bad weather condition and a field that was just from the weather. It was a bit soft. So and still maintain our speed, balance, and movement abilities. Also, the fans were phenomenal. They amazed me that they show up the places they do and the conditions that they do, and then they stay throughout the duration of the game. The other fans leave, they stay, and they bring it. It was impressive. It was good to win the turnover battle. I think turnovers obviously are big. We were able to capitalize on 7 points off of turnovers, and we were able to keep the penalties down. We only had 3 penalties in this game, which I thought was also big. We need to do better in third down situations offensively. I thought we did a good job defensively, but offensively we were 2 for 11, and we got to do a better job there. I thought the coaches and the coordinators had good game plans, both offensively, defensively, and on special teams. I think it's important, in particular when you go down the stretch here, that your offensive line and defensive line produce at a high level, and I thought they did that. Obvious by Tamba and Tyson Jackson, and then the guy who probably doesn't get enough credit for everything is Poe. He had another tremendous game. So, but the sacks, the 2 sacks by Tamba and 2 sacks by Tyson, I thought were big. And then the offensive line, I thought, with as young a group as we had in there, I thought they played well, and they played aggressive, and was everything perfect? No, it wasn't perfect. You don't come out of any game, but they played, I thought, at a very high level. Jamal and Dwayne and Alex, I think, had good games, as did Dexter and Quentin Demps with their returns. I thought those were big plays and defeating to the opponent, one of which happened right after a score by the Redskins. We were able to capitalize on a return, and that's tough to overcome. And then I mentioned the defensive line, but DJ and really had his hands on 3 balls and ended up intercepting the one. And then I thought our secondary flew around and made plays, and particularly in the run game. I mean, they filled and tackled very, very well, which can get overlooked. Anyways, all in all, it was a good win. We know that we've still got a lot of work ahead of us. I mean, we're not where we need to be yet. We're headed back in the right direction here. And we know we have a big game coming up this week against the Raiders on the road at the Coliseum out there. So we'll get ourselves ready to go here on Wednesday and with a good week of practice to get ourselves ready for the Raiders. Time's yours.
Coach, you got them all out of the game. What is your philosophy on when to get them out of the game? There might have been some people that it's a little late to get them out of the game.
Yeah. I understand. One nice thing about being a head coach, you can be questioned either way. I mean, it's a crazy deal, but I got it. I thought that was the right time, and we had been spotting them throughout the game too. So we had a good little rotation going with Nile. Nile, I thought, played well, and so it worked out okay.
Is it that's something that where you sit in the standings, it's entirely possible. I mean, you look ahead. I know you're not looking past the Raiders, but you may be in a position with a couple of games that will not affect. You've got to get there first. But do you have a philosophy on how much to use?
Yeah, well, I've done. You're into this too, so I'm not telling you something new, but I've done both, gone both ways with that. I have held people, from games, and at the same time, I've also played people, just depending on what I feel we need to get ourselves ready if we have that opportunity to continue to play. So I've got a couple different ways that I've done it. I'm not there yet. I wasn't thinking about that in this game. I've also been in games when we've been up by 21 points that teams would come back and beat us. So I make sure that take all that history into account on your first question. But on the second one, I've gone both ways with it.
Are all positions equal, or are some positions the kind that, hey, you sit a guy down for 3 weeks, throw him in there, and he's going to be just fine, or some guys need that confidence?
Yeah, well, you're only allowed to suit so many guys, and then you want to win. You want to win every game. I mean, that's what you want to do. So that's the objective. So you work it out what you think works, and in whatever situation, they're all different.
Is there more trust in Nile now to spell Jamal? The way he's kind of.
Yeah, and I just think it's a matter of the reps under his belt and production there. He's a young guy that was banged up a little bit at the college level, and we were able to just gradually get him back kind of into the swing of things, is how I'd look at it, and get used to the National Football League, the protections in particular. And I think everybody's got quite a little bit of trust in him to go out there and do a good job.
Coach, you say getting wins in the NFL are special. You have 150 now, 11 off the pace of your mentor, Mike Holmgren. As you look at that milestone, what does that mean to you?
I didn't realize that, but you don't look at that. That's not someplace I go with a number of wins. To even be considered in the same breath with Mike Holmgren, something special. I think he's a Hall of Fame football coach, and so and deserves to be in there. He was a great mentor. But I don't look at it the other way. I mean, I haven't sat down and gone, hey, I didn't know we were even at that number. But let's get the next one, right? That's kind of where I'm at.
In the back here.
Yep.
As much as you hear the eruption on the home setting when you get the early lead, do you sense when you are on the road that you're taking the opposing team's crowd out of the game and you're building a lead?
You can sense that. I'm not sure that's where all your focus is, but you sense that more the momentum of the players than and kind of the ebb and flow of the game there, of what direction it's going. But obviously, if you're in a loud place and it stops being loud, then you normally know good things are happening, right? So.
Coach, you talk about the offensive line. I know you kind of you hadn't been wholesale changes throughout the year, but you kind of had a guy here and there. It seems like all year you have to work with. What about Stevenson in particular? Could you expand upon how he's looked at left tackle, how he's done?
Yeah, he's gotten better every chance that he's had to play. you forget that he's a second-year player. So you're going to have some ups and downs. Well, we got it. We understand that. Young guy. But he's talented. He's trying every day to get better, which is important. As I tell you, the other young guys are doing. And he can play. He's a tremendous athlete. You saw him down the field yesterday on Jamal's long run. I mean, he was leading the pack down there. And so he has this great athletic ability, and he can play either side. Probably play guard for you if you. I mean, we've done that a little bit with him in camp, but he probably could do that in games for you if you needed that. So it's just a matter of him continuing to play and get reps under his belt and develop.
How Derek Fisher?
I thought I probably very similar to what I just said there about Donald. It was good to get him back in there, and I thought he did some nice things. This kind of a game is kind of a lineman's game. You had a little snow and a little ice, and you're running the football, and you're muddy, and I mean, that's kind of what linemen. They dream about games like that, and both those two kind of got right in the mud and got after it. They enjoyed it. So.
One of the things that you guys liked, that everybody liked about Fisher was his athletic ability. The touchdown to Jamal. That's what you guys saw, the athletic ability that he could get out there. And
On the quick screen, yeah.
In a short space.
Yeah, and he did that well. He's another one. I mean, he is a very good athlete. He's long, and he can run. So the play you're talking about was a quick screen to Jamal from the 5 right in that area. And he got out there and was able to block a secondary player. You feel comfortable with him getting up on linebackers. You saw him a lot of the backside cutoff blocks, both those two, but we're talking about Fisher. So on some of the backside cutoff blocks with an inside technique from a defensive lineman, he's able to make that block first play of the game, and there were several others after that.
Coach, I was talking to a lot of the players in the locker room after yesterday's win, and they talked about it's kind of a statement of we're still here, we're still working hard, we're not as bad as people think. What was the statement you thought yesterday's victory meant per se?
Well, I think that there are ups and downs in the National Football. I think you need to learn how to handle them, and you can't get too high for the highs, and you can't get too low for the lows. And you gotta be mentally tough enough to work through it. And when you go through a 3-game skid, that's not easy in the National Football League. Even those against good teams, explosive teams. But you got to trust yourself. You got to trust the guys around you that you're going to fix a problem and that you're going to come to work and with a purpose. And I thought the guys did that. I didn't feel that they hung their head any of the 3 weeks. And they felt like, hey, we just hang together. We work our we don't hide the problems. It's not just about getting out there and rah-rah on it. It's actually fixing the problem. And I thought they did that and kept focus on that, and it paid off for them in this game.
When did the team decide to go with a longer cleat? Did they go out on the field and then come back in and decide it was necessary? Or?
Actually, Alan puts on the cleats, and he goes out and tests the turf. And not that he's Jamal, but I mean, he gets out there and, but he gets out there and he moves around a little bit with the cleats on, and just to get a feel of the surface, and then comes back and gets with the players, and then they end up changing them out right before the game. I mean, I don't remember the exact time on the clock, but it was, they had the rivets, the gun, the drills, and buzz those things off and put the new ones on, and went with a little bit longer cleat. And I thought it was a fact. I wouldn't mention it. I mean, I felt it was a factor. So.
Andy, what's the genius of Dave Tote? How does he, no matter where he goes, with potential Hall of Fame guys like the guy in Chicago, but
Sure.
these guys get the ball in the end zone?
Yeah. Well, first of all, he's very intelligent, and he has a good feel and respect for blocking and tackling. He was an offensive lineman that not only coached the offensive line, but then moved over and coached the defensive line. So he understands that base principle of blocking and tackling, which is very important on special teams. And so, and then he and Kevin O'Day, I think, are like Batman and Robin. I mean, they work very well together. They're both very driven. That the players respect them. So they're going to try certain things, and the players go, you know what, I've got confidence. We'll try this. Let's go. And they try, and it works. And they work very hard at making sure that that they fit themselves right on the blocks and put themselves in the right position against some of these good returners that we go against.
Last two, sir.
Coach, I know the sack statistic can be a little misleading. Sometimes they kind of fall in your lap. Sometimes you get pressure and
Sure.
you don't ever get it. But Tyson Jackson had a couple of sacks. And you mentioned Poe, and he had some numbers early on, and they seem to kind of settle into double teaming him. How important is it for somebody else on the inside, not just Poe, but for somebody else to be able to pressure on the inside and be there, even if it's just the cleanup process?
Well, you saw that. Tyson had some pressures. DeVito had some pressures. Poe had some pressures. And then Poe is going to be the guy that gets doubled. 90% of the time, if you're in a 3-4, he's going to get chipped or banged, or a back's going to chip through to go into his route. And then one of those other two has to pick up their game and work edges and get pressure. And so this game here, it was Tyson. I mean, Tyson, and he did a good job with it, I thought. And you're talking about the 3-4 presents. Those are big bodies in there that we're asking to kind of play in a nimble mode, right? So when you transition from that run game to the pass game, and all three of those guys can do that.
Last one, Reid.
Coach, can you just talk about Eric Berry and what it is that he brings to this defense? I mean, he's the team leader. He's leading the rah-rah chant before the game, but then he goes on the field and is asked to do so many things. What makes him such a dominant force in what he does?
Yeah, he kind of lives by, if you want some, come get some. I mean, that's what he lives by, and that's how he handles practice. He's out there every day. He doesn't miss practice, doesn't miss workouts, and he's going to challenge you every play. That's his mode. He doesn't care if it's practice, he doesn't care if it's game. That's what he does, and guys like that, and that's. I mean, I think in a simple package, that's what he's all about.
All right. Thank you.